So in this, we see that he said that this economic situation that America now finds herself in makes her desperate. She's desperate. This is why she's doing what she's doing. So, for us to understand the magnitude of what is being told to us, we have to understand the definition. We need to understand the meaning of words so that we can get a good grasp on what is actually taking place. So, according to this guy, he was talking about the fandangling of the books by Joe Biden and the administration and the terrible situation that America now finds itself in. He didn't just talk about the bridges and the infrastructure that needed repair. He was talking about the ones that needed repair desperately or that needed right now. And he said there was over 65,000 bridges. 65,000. Now think about the 100 billion plus that was given to Ukraine and what they could have done for the infrastructure of America. But he at the end he said, so America is desperate. According to Google's dictionary, the word desperate means feeling, showing, or involving a hopeless sense that a situation is so bad as to be impossible to deal with, despairing, hopeless, anguish, distress, suicidal. So now that we understand the meaning and what he was trying to convey, we can now see that America irrational policies, uh, are insane and suicidal. So some people say, well, why would she do this when she knows that the ramification is this over here or the blowback is that over there? Like we were talking to Scott Ritter and we asked him about, well, if they went to war with China, this would happen economically. You would have a domino effect of defaults, unemployment, and closing down of businesses, banks, trucking companies, and all of the supply line. But you have to understand that in an irrational mind, what America is doing is rational because she's become desperate because the system no longer caters to American hegemony and American dominance. This is one of the mainstays. So this guy, I want you to hear what someone says about what's happening to the global economy. This is about a minute. So just be patient with us, okay? Here we are right
I
here.
find it quite insulting for the EU and the US to say the Russians are breaking the contract by demanding rubles when sanctions, in a sense, are breaking a contract. The policy is entirely the fault of Washington and the European Union. They refused to negotiate with the Russians on Putin's reasonable security demands, and then they loaded up sanctions and literally are running an economic warfare operation against Russia. So what Putin did was a very simple and straightforward measure. He said, if you want our you have to pay in rubles. Now, it's not so difficult for European governments or companies to go to the Moscow bank, the Gazprom bank, for example, and buy rubles. They're just trying to punish Russia. And this is why I've been saying it's economic warfare against Russia, which is the intent of the whole situation of NATO pouring arms into Ukraine to use Ukraine as a weapon against Russia. And the issue here is that the Russians are working on new agreements with China. They're working on new agreements with India, a ruble for rupee trade arrangement. We're moving into a whole new economic universe, and the West is terrified about it. The Anglo-Americans won't accept it, and that's why they're trying to degrade and destroy the Russian economy.
Do you understand? He's talking about the world is moving on from that, and this is what has the Western world, led by America, terrified, right? Which is similar to what we were just talking about when we go back to the word desperate. Feeling, showing, or involving a hopeless sense that a situation is so bad as to be impossible to deal with, despairing, hopeless, anguished, distressed, suicidal. And it also says this: last ditch, last chance, last resort, last minute, last gasp. So that's what it's saying right here. And when we look at this, right, and we're getting some feedback. So hold on 1 second. Let me get this out of the way. All right, we got this out. Okay, we'll bring Rashid back in. I see him back in the booth. But they're always playing with our connections, but we have excellent connections. But when we look at this, this is not one and done. You hear them talking about India and how America is trying to put pressure on India to do away with ties with Russia. You hear them how they're trying to divide China and Russia. They're trying to divide India and China. They're trying to keep these powers where they want constant sanctions of Venezuela. And at the same time, they want you to look at them as the leaders of the world, even while they are constantly at loggerheads with Iran. Now, all of these are different sides of the same coin, and it is causing the world to move away from the dollar, right? As a matter of fact, I should play something that will go back. Matter of fact, I am going to play this a minute and 21 seconds. It goes back to the Iranian situation. And remember that China and Russia were two of the guarantors of the JCPOA. Remember that, right? And remember that this was supposed to remove all sanctions on Iran and bring her into the fold of the international community economically so that she can do trade and that she can be able to fund certain projects with international bond buyers coming in buying bonds to fund these things. But America reneged on this. And this alienated who? Russia and China. And it's leading us to the situation where we are right now with nations walking away from the dollar. But John Kerry had some words of wisdom back then, and I'll share them with you, and you'll see how they're interconnected with what is going on right now with the decline of the dollar, the rejection of the dollar, and the world moving outside of the SWIFT system and the world moving outside of the dollar-dominated system. Just pay close attention to this. A minute and 21 seconds.
Are you kidding me? The United States is going to start sanctioning our allies and their banks and their businesses because we walked away from a deal, and we're going to force them to do what we want them to do even though they agreed to the deal we came to? Are you kidding? That is a recipe quickly, my friends, for them to walk away from Ukraine, where they are already very dicey and ready to say, well, we've done our bit. They were ready, in many cases, to say, well, we're the ones paying the price for your sanctions. It was Obama who went out and actually put together a sanctions regime that had an impact. I went to China. We persuaded China, don't buy more oil. We persuaded India and other countries to step back. Can you imagine trying to sanction them after persuading them to put in place sanctions to bring Iran to the negotiating table? And when they have not only come to the table, but they made a deal, we turn around and nix the deal and then tell them you're going to have to obey our rules on the sanctions anyway. That is a recipe very quickly, my friends, business people here, for the American dollar to cease to be the reserve currency of the world, which is already bubbling out there.
And so it was already bubbling out there. And now you see exactly what he warned about at that lecture or that interview or that get together. Now you're seeing the ramifications of what John Kerry has said. What say you on the matter, Rashid?
Well, you see what's happening now. Without the reserve currency, America has no money. This is what people can't understand. Not money unless it has something of tangible value. America done put out so much money all over the globe that it, like I keep saying, it's monopoly money. And all it takes is the rest of the world to say, I don't want it anymore, because they can never get paid back. You see China sending these thousands and thousands of ships over here to America. They're never gonna get paid for it. So a light bulb is coming on the rest of the world, saying, well, why should I give them, let them dictate to me when hell, they ain't giving me nothing in return? And that's what's taking place. The rest of the world, a light bulb is coming on, and it's finally clicked. Why should you be the ruler of me? Why should I take your worthless dollars when at least Iran and the rest of the people, they're going to pay me something in tangible value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going on. That's what John Kerry was. See, for the average Joe, he run out and look at the dollar bill, it's worth something. But to the rest of the world, it's worth nothing. And they're finally realizing that. I don't want nothing. It's like me going printing up a bunch of dollars with me and your face on it and running around passing it as currency. After a while, I don't want that. You can't sell me anything. I mean, with your printed up with your face on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the people don't want to understand. They think that he's a rock of Gibraltar, but he got feet of clay. He's quicksand. That's basically what it is. To get up to the American dollar, it's like you're gonna sink down, and there's no bottom. You just keep sinking and sinking and sinking. And that's what